The mist that clings to the valley of Oakhaven does not behave like water. It does not dissipate with the morning sun, nor does it drift with the wind. It hangs heavy and deliberate, like a shroud, waiting to be lowered. For 300 years, the people of Oakhaven believed the mist was a natural phenomenon, a quirk of the geography. Just as they believed the mountain casting its long, jagged shadow over their homes was just stone, and the rumbling deep within its belly was just the earth shifting in its sleep. They were wrong on all counts. But comfort is a powerful drug, and the villagers of Oakhaven had been overdosing on it for generations. It was only when the livestock began to vanish, not eaten, but simply erased, leaving behind severed tethers cut by nothing sharp, that the comfort began to wear off. Then came the heat, a dry, oppressive fever that radiated from the mountain peaks, turning winter snow into grey slush in a matter of hours. And finally, the silhouette, a shape too vast to be a bird, too rigid to be a cloud, circling the spire of the grey peak, a dragon. The word itself tasted like ash in the mouths of the elders. It was a creature of fairy tales, a relic of a darker age that had no business existing in the age of the loom and the plough. Desperation breeds commerce. The village council, led by the stern and pragmatic mayor, Haddon, pooled their dwindling resources. They sent a rider south to the guild halls of the capital, carrying a heavy purse of gold and a plea for salvation. They didn't want a soldier, they wanted a legend. And they got one. His name was Silas Vane. He was a man composed of scar tissue and silence, dragging a claymore wrapped in oilcloth that looked heavy enough to split an anvil. When he arrived in Oakhaven, the villagers lined the muddy streets, cheering. They threw petals that withered in the unnatural heat. Vane didn't wave, he didn't smile. He simply looked up at the mountain, his eyes narrowed, reading the air like a sailor reads a storm. He spent one night in the tavern, sharpening his blade with a rhythmic shake that sounded like a clock counting down, and at first light he began the climb. The village waited. They expected the sounds of battle. They expected roars that would shake the shingles from their roofs, plumes of fire, the clash of steel against scale. They gathered in the square, holding their breath, waiting for the signal that the monster was dead and the world was safe again. The morning passed in silence. The afternoon bled into a bruised purple twilight. Still silence. Then, just as the first lantern was being lit, the movement caught their eye. It wasn't the triumphant stride of a victor. It was a scramble, a chaotic, desperate descent. Silas Vane, the man who was rumored to have severed the head of the Basilisk of Oreo, was running. He wasn't retreating. He was fleeing. He stumbled into the village square, his armor unbuckled and hanging loose, his face drained of blood, his eyes wide and frantic. The eyes of a man who has looked into the abyss and seen something looking back that he did not recognize. He didn't speak to the mayor. He didn't acknowledge the crowd. He ran straight to his horse, his hands trembling so violently he could barely work the buckles of his saddlebags. Master Vane. Mayor Haddon stepped forward, his voice trembling. Is it done? Is the beast dead? Vane spun around, and the look on his face stopped the mayor in his tracks. It wasn't cowardice. It was a profound, shattering realization. You must leave. Van Hudden bristled, his voice cracking. All of you now, while the sun is down. Take nothing, just run, run, Haddon bristled, looking at the confused villagers. We hired you to kill the dragon, not to tell us to abandon our homes. Is the beast too strong? Do you need more men? Vane laughed, a dry, hysterical sound that chilled the blood of everyone present. He grabbed Haddon by the lapels, pulling him close. The dragon, Vane hissed. You think I am running from the dragon? I didn't even draw my sword. I spoke to it, Haddon. Or rather, it let me understand. He shoved the mare back and vaulted onto his horse, kicking the beast into a frenzy. Coward! A voice rang out from the crowd. It was Ilara, the village archivist. A woman of sharp mind and sharper tongue. You took our gold. You saw a little fire, and you broke. Vane reined his horse around, looking directly at Ilara. The terror in his eyes had settled into a grim, pitying certainty. "Keep the gold," he spat. "Gold is no use in a graveyard." He pointed a trembling finger toward the dark, silent mountain. "I am not running from the dragon. Girl, the dragon is the only thing keeping the door shut. It is not the dragon you should fear, but that which he is protecting you from." "What is he protecting us from?" Ilara shouted, stepping into the mud. Vane looked at her, then at the village, the quaint cottages, the windmill, the church. "He's protecting you from the truth." What? Vane said softly, "and God help you, he is failing." He kicked his heels, and the dragon slayer vanished into the night, riding as if the devil himself were snapping at his horse's flank. The square descended into chaos. Arguments erupted. Some wanted to flee, terrified by Vane's reaction. Others, led by the furious Mayor Haddon, insisted that Vane was a fraud, a madman who had lost his nerve. They had lived here for generations. If there was something worse than a dragon nearby, surely they would know. But Ilara stood silent in the uproar. She was a historian. She dealt in records, in lineage, in the ink-stained truth of the past. And as she looked at the mountain, she realized something that made her stomach turn. In all the archives, in all the journals of the village dating back 3 centuries, there was no record of where the founders of Oakhaven had come from. The history simply began 300 years ago, on a Tuesday. That night the heat from the mountain spiked, the mist thickened, turning a sickly yellow. Ilara couldn't sleep. The Slayer's words replayed in her mind. "That which he is protecting you from, not it. You." The phrasing was clumsy, or perhaps incredibly precise. She made a decision. If the Slayer wouldn't do his job, she would do hers. She wouldn't take a sword, she would take a lantern. She needed to know what was in the dark. Ilara left her cottage while the village argued in the town hall. She took the goat path, the winding, treacherous trail that Vane had descended. The air grew thinner as she climbed, the heat radiating from the stone beneath her boots like a fevered forehead. There were no crickets here, no night birds, just a low, resonant thrumming, a vibration that she felt in her teeth. It sounded like a massive subterranean heart. She reached the plateau near the summit an hour before dawn. The entrance to the dragon's lair was not a cave, as the stories said. It was a structure, ancient cyclopean pillars of black stone, smooth and seamless, cut with a precision that no chisel could achieve. It looked like the entrance to a temple or a tomb, and there, coiled around the pillars, was the dragon. He was not the green-scaled monster of the tapestries. He was a creature of obsidian and ash, his scales like plates of volcanic glass. He was immense, his bulk filling the plateau, but he looked tired. His wings were tattered, pierced by age, not arrows. He lay with his head resting on his front paws, his eyes closed. But as Ilara stepped onto the stone, one eye opened. It was not the eye of a beast. It was a pool of molten gold, filled with an intelligence that was ancient and incredibly sad. Ilara froze. She held her lantern up, her hand shaking. I am not here to fight," she stammered. The dragon did not move his jaw, but a voice echoed in her mind. It sounded like the grinding of tectonic plates, heavy and deep. "I know, little keeper of paper. The man of iron brought fear. You bring curiosity. Both are heavy burdens. You speak," Ilara whispered. "I project." The dragon replied, "Language is a small thing. Meaning is larger. Why have you come to the threshold, Ilara of Oakhaven?" The Slayer, "Vane, he said you were protecting us." Ilara took a step forward, emboldened by the creature's passivity. "He said we shouldn't fear you. What is here? What are you guarding?" The dragon shifted, the sound of his scales sliding against stone like an avalanche in the distance. He lifted his massive head, looking not at her, but past her, down toward the village lights flickering in the valley below. "You ask the wrong question," the dragon projected. "I am not guarding the mountain from you. I am guarding the world from what lies in the valley." Ilara frowned, confused. "The valley, that is my home. That is the village. There's nothing there but farmers and weavers." The dragon let out a breath, a puff of dry, superheated air. Is that what you see? Look closer, historian. Look with the eyes of the memory you seek. Suddenly, the world tilted. Ilara gasped as a vision flooded her mind. She saw the valley, but not as it was. She saw it 300 years ago. There was no village, there was a crater. A massive smoking impact site where something had fallen from the stars. Something geometric, shifting, wrong. A color that didn't exist in nature. It writhed, infecting the soil, twisting the trees into impossible shapes. She saw people, nomads, wanderers, stumble into the crater. But they didn't die, they were absorbed. Their bodies remained, but their minds were rewritten. They began to build. They built cottages to hide the geometry. They built a church to hide the hum. They built a facade of normalcy over a singularity of madness. The vision snapped off. Ilara fell to her knees, gasping. What was that? The seed, the dragon said. It fell long ago. It is a parasite of realities. It consumes worlds by convincing them that it belongs there. It creates a loop, a perfect, stagnant story. It needs hosts to anchor it to this dimension. It needs belief. Ilara shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. Numbers stood. No, that's a lie. My parents, my brother, we are real. I have memories, I have scars. You have the script. The dragon answered gently. The seed is a narrative engine. It writes you. It gives you histories that never happened to keep you docile, to keep you here. You are not the residents of Oakhaven. You are the bars of the cage. Your lives, your daily routines, your very existence creates the psychic pressure that keeps the seed dormant. If you leave, if the village disperses, the pressure drops. The seed wakes. And it will eat this world as it has eaten 1,000 others. Ilara stood up, anger flaring through her fear. So we are prisoners. And you, what are you? I am the warden, the dragon said, stretching his tattered wings. I was once like Vane, a hero from a star-faring age, long forgotten. I came to slay the monster. I realized I could not kill it without killing the hosts, so I made a choice. I used the technology of my people, this form you see, to become the anchor. I sit here generating the heat, the fear, the boundary. I keep you in, Ilara, because if you leave, everything ends. Vane, he saw this. He saw the seed beneath the skin of the mare. He saw the strings. His mind could not handle the scale of the deception. He ran. So what happens now? Ilara demanded. Why? Tell me. Why not just burn me and keep the secret? The dragon lowered his head until it was inches from hers. The heat was intense, smelling of ozone and sulfur. Because I am dying, Ilara, my core is failing. The heat you feel is my containment field breaking down. That is why the livestock vanished. The seed is testing the perimeter. That is why the mist is yellow. It is breathing. If you die, the field collapses. The illusion fails. The seed wakes. It will consume you all first, then expand outward. Then we have to evacuate. We have to get everyone out. Ilara shouted, turning toward the path. If you leave, the seed wakes, the dragon roared, a sound that shook the stones. Do you not listen? You are the fuel. The only way to destroy the seed is to starve it. Ilara stopped. The cold wind bit at her face. Starve it? How? The dragon's golden eyes dimmed. The hosts must cease to be hosts. The village must end, not by escape, but by cessation. Ilara stared at him. The horror of it washed over her. You mean we have to die, all of us? To kill it, it is the only way to save the rest of your world. As long as Oakhaven lives, the cancer grows. No, that's insane. You are a monster. You want us to commit mass suicide for a theory. It is not a theory. Look at your hand. Ilara, she looked down. In the pale moonlight, her hand was flickering, glitching. For a second, her fingers weren't flesh. They were beams of translucent light, code, static. She screamed and grabbed her wrist. The flesh returned, but the sensation of nothingness lingered. The breakdown has begun, the dragon said. You have until sunrise. When the sun hits the peak, My core will expire. If the village is still here, if the minds are still dreaming, the seed will bloom. Ilara turned and ran. She ran down the mountain faster than she had ever moved in her life. She didn't know what she believed. She only knew she had to see her brother. She had to see if he was real. She burst into the village square just as the first hint of grey light touched the horizon. The village was awake. Mayor Haddon was organizing a militia, armed with pitchforks and old swords. They looked ridiculous, pathetic. Ilara, Haddon shouted. Spotting her, where have you been? Did you see it? Is the beast wounded? Ilara stopped, panting, her chest heaving. She looked at Haddon. Really looked at him. She saw the sweat on his brow, the fear in his eyes, but then she looked closer. She saw the way his left eye twitched in a rhythm that was too mechanical. She saw the way the villagers behind him were standing in identical postures, like statues, cast from the same mold. It is not a beast, Haddon, she whispered. What? Haddon stepped closer. Speak up, girl. It is a cage. Yacht, yacht. She said, her voice rising. We are the cage. She is hysterical. It, Haddon announced to the crowd. The fear has taken her wits. Grab her. Two men moved forward. Ilara scrambled back. No, listen to me. Look at yourselves. Do you remember your grandfather's name, Haddon? Do you? Does anyone remember the name of the town before Oakhaven? The crowd hesitated. A ripple of confusion passed through them. Brows furrowed. There was no town. Sards, Jards, Sarts. Ilara screamed. We are keeping something asleep, and if we stay, we unleash it. Silence, Haddon roared. His face contorted, his jaw unhinging slightly too wide, revealing a glimpse of something black and oily in his throat. The dragon lies. It seeks to trick us. We must march. We must kill it and reclaim our peace. There is no peace, Ilara yelled. Look at the mist. The mist was swirling now, forming shapes. Tendrils of yellow fog were reaching for the houses, testing the wood, melting the thatch. The ground began to shake. Not a tremor, but a heartbeat. Thump. Thump. Thara saw her brother, Jory, in the crowd. He looked pale, sick. He was clutching his chest. Ilara, he whimpered. My hands. I can't feel my hands. He held them up. They were dissolving into pixels, into grey dust. Jory, Ilara lunged for him, but Haddon blocked her path. Omer was changing now. His skin was rippling, the human disguise failing as the seed sensed the warden's weakness on the mountain. We must feed. Juz. Haddon's voice was a chorus of 1,000 screaming whispers. The warden falls. The hunger returns. Ilara realized then that Vane was right, but the dragon was also right. Haddon and the elders, they weren't just victims, they were fully corrupted. They were the antibodies of the parasite. But Jory was just a boy. Was he a construct too? Was she? A roar shattered the sky. A beam of pure white light erupted from the mountain peak. The dragon, he was expending the last of his life force. The beam hit the village square, vaporizing the mist. The heat was unbearable. Ilara, the dragon's voice was in her head, weak now, fading. I cannot hold it. You must choose. Sever the link, how, she screamed, dodging a blow from Haddon's elongated shadow wreathed arm. The anchor, the dragon cried. The seed is anchored to the strongest will, the one who enforces the narrative. Ilara looked at Haddon. The mayor, the authority, the one who kept the records, who enforced the rules, who kept the comfort. He wasn't just the leader, he was the primary node. Kill the story. Church, Ilara whispered. She didn't have a weapon. She only had the lantern she had carried up the mountain. It was fueled by oil, but she had stuffed it with pages from the archive she had stolen before she left. The false history of Oakhaven. Haddon lunged at her, his mouth a gaping void of teeth and darkness. Submit to the silence, he shrieked. Ilara didn't run. She smashed the lantern against Haddon's chest. The oil splashed. The flame caught the paper. and then the cloth of his tunic. But it wasn't normal fire. Haddon didn't burn like flesh, he burned like flesh. He burned like film. He shrieked, a sound of digital distortion. It's not real. Ilara shouted to the villagers, to Jory, to herself, none of this is real. Wake up, reject it. As Haddon burned, the illusion flickered, the village houses turned translucent. The cobblestones turned to grey sludge. The villagers grabbed their heads, screaming as false memories were ripped away. The link is breaking, the dragon whispered. But the seed fights back. The ground beneath Ilara opened up. Not a hole, but a mouth. The seed was waking up. It wanted to re-assimilate its wayward cells. Gravity reversed. Ilara felt herself being pulled upward toward the sky, while the village was pulled down into the earth. Jory, she screamed, reaching for her brother. He looked at her, his eyes clear for the first time. It is okay, Ilara. Parts, parts. His voice sounding like it was coming from a great distance. I remember now, I remember before. Before what? Before we were Oakhaven, we were the crew, we were the crashing ship. He smiled, sad and peaceful. We have to go down with the ship, Ilara. That's the duty. No, Ilara wept. I can't let you go. You aren't one of us, Jory said softly. He let go of the ground, allowing the gravity of the pit to take him. You were the passenger, the anomaly. That's why you questioned. You have to live. You have to warn them. Jory! The boy dissolved into light, flowing into the burning form of Haddon, neutralizing the energy. The village collapsed in on itself, folding into a singularity of light and sound. The shockwave hit Ilara, throwing her backward up the mountain path, away from the destruction. She hit the stone of the plateau hard. Darkness took her. When she woke, the sun was high. The air was cool. The mist was gone. She dragged herself to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The valley was empty. There was no village, no ruins, no crater, just a pristine green valley, untouched by human hands. A small stream wound through the center, babbling over rocks. It was as if Oakhaven had never existed. Ilara turned back to the dragon's lair. The great obsidian beast was gone. In its place, where the massive body had lain, was a pile of grey ash, and in the center of the ash, a single object. A sword Silas Vane's claymore. She walked over to it. Beside the sword was a small metallic object, a datapad, a recorder. It looked futuristic, alien. She picked it up. It flickered to life. A holographic projection of the dragon. Not the beast, but a man in shimmering armor appeared. If you are seeing this, arts, darts, charge. Then the containment was successful. The seed has been starved. The cycle is broken. I was the warden. You were the fail-safe. The element of doubt introduced into the simulation to ensure that if the corruption went too far, someone would tear it down from the inside. Ilara stared at the hologram. I was a program. You were the hope, Haud, Ards, Hard, the Haskavrinte, and said, now you are the messenger. The seed is dormant, but it is not dead. It waits in the spaces between stars. Take the ship. It is buried beneath this platform. Go warn the others. The hologram faded. Ilara stood alone on the mountain. She looked at her hands. They were solid, scarred, real. She looked down at the empty valley, the graveyard of 1,000 souls who never really existed, but who she had loved all the same. She picked up the heavy claymore. It dragged in the dirt, heavy and real. She wasn't a historian anymore. She wasn't a villager. She was the one who remembered the things that never happened. Ilara walked toward the back of the cave, where the faint hum of an engine began to vibrate in the floor. She didn't look back. The fear was gone. All that was left was the cold, hard duty of the truth. And the dragon was right. It wasn't the monster she should have feared. It was the comfort of the lie, and she would never let anyone sleep that soundly again.